This engine cost $24,000. Brand new. Top of the line. 300 hours later, it's already been in the shop 4 times. This one, a 1996 Johnson. I am 28 years old. Over 4,000 hours on the clock. And the only thing it's ever needed is spark plugs. For years, they told us newer means better. More technology, more power, more reliability. So I pulled the repair records. Real numbers, from real shops. Expose what nobody in the industry wants you to see. What I found didn't just surprise me. It embarrassed an entire industry. Before we go any further, if you own a boat or you're thinking about buying one, hit subscribe and tap that bell. Because what you're about to learn could save you thousands of dollars or cost you everything. Now let me ask you something. Drop your answer in the comments. How old is your outboard? And how many times has it left you stranded? Because by the end of this video, you might be looking at your engine very differently. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to a time when the outboard motor industry made a promise. A promise so convincing, so well marketed, that millions of boat owners believed it without question. It started in the late 1990s. The Environmental Protection Agency was tightening emission standards, and the traditional 2-stroke outboard, the engine that had powered American boating for half a century, was about to become a relic. By 2006, new regulations effectively ended the era of conventional 2-stroke production. The industry needed a new direction, and manufacturers were ready with an answer. The 4-stroke outboard. Mercury, Yamaha, Honda, Suzuki, they all raced to dominate this new frontier, and the marketing was relentless. These weren't just cleaner engines, they told us. They were better engines, quieter, smoother, more fuel efficient, and above all, more reliable. Electronic fuel injection replaced carburetors. Computer-controlled ignition replaced points and condensers. Digital gauges replaced analog needles. The message was clear. The future had arrived, and it was bulletproof. The numbers seemed to back it up. Manufacturers began offering 5-year warranties. Some extended coverage to 1,000 hours. Would they do that? Buyers reasoned. If these engines weren't built to last, the confidence was infectious. Dealers pushed the new technology hard. Trade-in programs encouraged owners to swap their older outboards for the latest models. And prices climbed. In 2005, a quality 200 horsepower outboard cost around $8,000. By 2015, that same horsepower class averaged $14,000. By 2023, you'd be lucky to find one under $22,000. A 175% increase in less than 2 decades. But buyers kept paying because they believed they were investing in reliability. The dealership experience reinforced this belief at every turn. Showroom floors gleamed with the newest models. Sales staff spoke in terms of worry-free ownership and maintenance-free technology. Extended service plans promised peace of mind. And the fine print. Nobody read the fine print. Behind the scenes, something else was happening. Dealer networks were evolving. Service departments, once a necessary support function, became profit centers. Manufacturers introduced proprietary diagnostic systems that only authorized dealers could access. Software updates required specialized equipment. Parts distribution tightened. The message to independent mechanics was subtle but unmistakable. This isn't your world anymore. For the average boat owner, none of this was visible. They saw sleek cowlings and digital displays. They heard promises of power and efficiency. They felt the smooth idle of a modern 4-stroke and believed the revolution was real. And for a while, it seemed like it was. Owners reported excellent performance in the early hours. Forums filled with praise for the new generation of outboards. Magazine reviews glowed with enthusiasm. The industry had successfully convinced the boating public that newer, in every measurable way, meant better. But there were whispers. Quiet at first. A mechanic in Florida noticing unusual wear patterns. A dealer in Michigan fielding more warranty claims than expected. An owner in Australia wondering why his 3-year-old engine needed to repair his father's 20-year-old motor never required. These whispers didn't make the brochures. They didn't appear in the advertisements. They existed in the margins, in repair shop waiting rooms. in online forums buried beneath pages of positive reviews, in conversations between mechanics after the customers went home. Something wasn't adding up. The promises were loud, but the problems were starting to accumulate. And the people closest to these engines, the ones who fixed them, not the ones who sold them, were beginning to see a pattern that the industry didn't want anyone to notice. The question was, would anyone listen? If you're going to challenge an industry, you need more than suspicion. You need evidence. You need numbers that can't be argued away. You need data from the people who see these engines at their worst, not on showroom floors, but on lift hoists, with oil-stained hands and diagnostic screens, flashing error codes. So that's where we went. Over 18 months, we partnered with 12 independent marine repair shops, not dealerships, not manufacturer-affiliated service centers, independent operations, the kind of shops where the owner answers the phone and the mechanic has grease under his fingernails. Shops in Florida, where saltwater eats metal for breakfast. In Michigan, where freshwater fleets run hard all summer. In Texas, where heat pushes engines to their limits. In British Columbia, where commercial operators demand reliability above all else. And in Australia, where the marine industry mirrors North America but operates in even harsher conditions. These mechanics had no corporate loyalty, no incentive to protect any brand. Their only concern was fixing what came through the door and getting paid for it. We collected repair records from 2018 through 2024. Every ticket, every invoice, every diagnostic report they were willing to share. When the data was compiled, we had over 4,200 individual repair events to analyze. Not warranty claims handled quietly by dealers. Real repairs, paid for by real owners, documented in real time. This distinction matters. Warranty repairs don't appear on owner records. They're processed internally, and the data stays with the manufacturer. What we captured was different. The true cost of ownership after the warranty expires, or for repairs that warranties conveniently don't cover. With the data set assembled, we needed a framework. Comparing a 1985 outboard to a 2023 model would prove nothing. Technology changes. Expectations change. So we divided the engines into 3 distinct groups based on their technological era. The first group we called legacy mechanical. These were pre-2005 carbureted two-strokes, the Johnson and the Vinrud workhorses, older Yamahas, classic Mercuries, engines built before emissions regulations forced the industry's hand. Simple designs, mechanical fuel delivery, points ignition or early electronic systems. No computers, no sensors, just combustion and metal. The second group was transitional EFI. These engines came from 2005 to 2012, the first wave of electronic fuel injection four-strokes. They met the new emission standards but retained some mechanical simplicity. Digital controls were emerging, but the architecture was still relatively straightforward. The third group was modern digital. Engines from 2013 to 2024. Full computer integration. Fly-by-wire throttle systems. NMEA 2000 networking. Joystick compatibility. Bluetooth connectivity. These were the engines the industry told us represented the pinnacle of marine technology. With the groups defined, we established 4 key metrics. First, mean time between failures. How many hours, on average, could an engine run before something broke? This was our core reliability measure. Second, average repair cost. When something did fail, what did owners actually pay to fix it? Third, repairability index. Could an independent shop complete the repair? Or did the owner have to go to a dealer? This measured how much control owners retained over their own property. Fourth, parts availability score. How quickly and easily could replacement parts be sourced? A broken engine means nothing if the parts to fix it don't exist. For metrics, 3 engine eras, over 4,200 data points. No manufacturer sponsorship, no dealer influence. Just numbers from the front lines of marine repair. We weren't trying to prove a theory. We were trying to find the truth. And when we finally ran the analysis, the truth was waiting for us, stubborn, undeniable, and deeply uncomfortable for an industry built on the promise of progress. The spreadsheet didn't lie, and what it showed was impossible to ignore. Let's start with reliability. the metric every manufacturer claims to prioritize, the reason buyers pay premium prices for premium engines. Mean time between failures, the average number of operating hours before something goes wrong. The legacy mechanical outboards, those pre-2005 two-strokes that the industry abandoned, averaged 1,480 hours between repairs. Some of these engines had been running for 3 decades. They just kept going. The transitional EFI engines, that first generation of 4-strokes from 2005 to 2012, averaged 920 hours. A significant drop, but explainable, perhaps, as growing pains for new technology. Then came the modern digital outboards, the engines marketed as the most advanced, most reliable motors ever built. Their average? 640 hours between failures. Less than half the reliability of the engines they replaced. Read that again. Owners paid 3 times the price for engines that needed repair twice as often. The repair cost data was equally damning. When a legacy mechanical engine failed, the average repair bill came to $385. Parts were cheap. Labor was straightforward. Most independent shops could handle the work without specialized equipment. Transitional EFI engines averaged $710 per repair. More complexity meant more labor hours. Electronic components cost more than mechanical ones, but the numbers were still manageable. Modern digital outboards, the average repair cost was $1,240, and that figure hides the worst cases. We documented repairs exceeding $3,000 for sensor failures, control module replacements, and software-related issues that would have been inconceivable on older engines. One mechanic in Texas shared a case that stuck with us. A customer brought in a 2020 Suzuki with a failed throttle position sensor. The part itself cost about $40 wholesale, but because the shop lacked Suzuki's proprietary diagnostic software, they couldn't complete the repair. The owner had to trailer his boat 90 miles to the nearest authorized dealer. The final bill, including diagnostics, labor, and the dealer service fees, exceeded $1,100 for a $40 sensor. This brings us to the repairability index, the percentage of repairs that an independent shop could complete without dealer intervention. For legacy mechanical engines, that number was 94%. Almost anything that broke could be fixed by any competent mechanic with standard tools. Transitional EFI engines dropped to 78%. Electronic fuel injection introduced some complexity, but most repairs remained accessible. Modern digital outboards scored just 51%. Nearly half of all repairs required dealer-only tools, proprietary software, or parts that manufacturers refuse to sell through independent channels. The implications are staggering. If you own a modern outboard and something fails, there's a coin flip chance you won't be able to choose who fixes it. The manufacturer has already made that decision for you. Finally, we measured parts availability. How quickly could replacement components be sourced when something failed? Legacy mechanical engines scored 8.2 out of 10. Aftermarket suppliers, salvage operations, and robust parts networks meant you could find almost anything within days. Transitional EFI engines scored 6.5. Some proprietary components created delays, but overall availability remained reasonable. Modern digital outboards scored just 4.8. ECU modules backordered for weeks. Wiring harnesses on indefinite hold. Sensors discontinued without notice. One shop reported waiting 11 weeks for a control unit that rendered a 2021 Mercury completely inoperable. Let those numbers settle. Older engines are more reliable, cheaper to fix, easier to repair, and better supported by available parts. Newer engines fail more often, cost more to repair, lock out independent mechanics, and leave owners stranded waiting for components. The data doesn't whisper, it screams. Numbers tell you what happened. Understanding tells you why. And the why, in this case, leads to uncomfortable places. Start with emissions. The Environmental Protection Agency didn't wake up one morning and decided to kill the two-stroke outboard. The regulations evolved over decades, driven by genuine environmental concerns. Traditional two-strokes burned oil mixed with fuel. They released unburned hydrocarbons directly into the water. Studies documented contamination in lakes and coastal areas. something had to change. The 2006 emissions standards forced manufacturers to innovate. Four-stroke engines and direct injection two-strokes met the new requirements. Cleaner combustion, less pollution, a legitimate environmental victory. But progress has trade-offs. Four-stroke outboards require more moving parts. Valves, camshafts, timing chains, oil circulation systems separate from fuel delivery, electronic fuel injection demand sensors, computers, and wiring harnesses that didn't exist on carbureted engines. Every added component is another potential failure point. The industry solved one problem and created another. We cleaned up the water, which was the right thing to do. But we also build engines that break more often and cost more to fix. The environmental math isn't as simple as anyone wants to admit. Still, emissions regulations don't explain everything. They don't explain why manufacturers restrict parts access. They don't explain proprietary diagnostic software. They don't explain why a competent independent mechanic can't fix a modern outboard without permission from the company that built it. For that, we need to follow the money. The Marine Retailers Association of America publishes industry data every year. One figure stands out. Service departments now generate 30 to 40% of total dealer profitability. Not engine sales. Service. The wrench turning, diagnostic running, parts ordering side of the business has become essential to survival. Manufacturers understand this, and they've structured their ecosystems accordingly. Proprietary diagnostic systems aren't accidents. They're strategies. When only authorized dealers can plug into an engine's computer, every malfunction becomes a forced visit. When software updates require physical presence at a service center, every glitch becomes a billable appointment. When parts distribution flows exclusively through dealer networks, every repair becomes a captive transaction. One industry insider, speaking anonymously, put it bluntly: the goal isn't to build an engine that lasts forever. The goal is to build an engine that keeps you coming back. Lifetime customer value. That's the metric that matters. This isn't a conspiracy. It's a business strategy. And from the manufacturer's perspective, it's working perfectly. Revenue streams are predictable. Customer retention is enforced by technology, not loyalty. The ecosystem sustains itself. For owners, the calculation looks different. They're paying more for engines that need more service, performed exclusively by shops they didn't choose, using parts they can't source independently. The freedom that once defined boat ownership, the ability to maintain your own equipment, to choose your own mechanic, to operate independently, has been quietly engineered away. Then there's complexity itself. Modern outboards bristle with features that didn't exist a decade ago. Joystick piloting, digital throttle-by-wire, Bluetooth connectivity, automatic trim adjustment, GPS integration, app-based monitoring. Some of these features genuinely improve the boating experience. Others exist because they look impressive in brochures and justify higher price tags. Every feature requires hardware. Every hardware component requires software. Every software system requires updates, maintenance, and eventual troubleshooting. A mechanic in Florida described a customer whose engine wouldn't start. The diagnosis took 3 hours. The culprit was a firmware glitch in the Bluetooth connectivity module. The engine itself was fine. The computer wasn't. This is where the industry stands. Engines that are marvels of engineering, crippled by business models that prioritize revenue over reliability. Progress measured in features, not longevity. Innovation that serves the manufacturer first and the owner second. The data expose the problem. The analysis explains it. But understanding isn't enough. The question now is what comes next. Something interesting is happening on the water. A quiet rebellion. Not organized. Not announced. Just thousands of individual decisions adding up to a pattern the industry didn't anticipate. Boat owners are going backward. Browse the second-hand market today, and you'll notice something strange. Well-maintained pre-2005 outboards are climbing in price. Engines that should be depreciating are appreciating. Facebook groups dedicated to legacy two-stroke restoration are growing. Forums buzz with discussions about finding good older Yamahas, rebuilding classic Evinrudes, keeping Johnson Motors running for another decade. These aren't nostalgic hobbyists. They're pragmatic owners who did the math. They bought the new technology, experienced the failures, paid the repair bills, and made a choice. Some lessons cost $20,000 to learn. One mechanic in British Columbia told us his phone hasn't stopped ringing. Customers want him to service their older engines. Customers want to buy older engines. Customers who swore they'd never go back to carburetors are asking him to find carbureted motors. The demand exists. The supply is finite. And every year, the pool of good legacy outboards shrinks. For buyers navigating this market, the data suggests some practical guidance. First, ask for repair history, not just service records. Warranty work doesn't appear on owner paperwork. Dealers process those claims internally. A clean service log might hide 3 major repairs that the manufacturer covered quietly. Ask the right questions. Demand documentation. Second, factor repairability into your purchase decision. A cheaper engine that requires dealer-only service may cost far more over its lifetime than an older motor any mechanic can fix. Access matters. Independence has value. Price tags lie. Third, consider older technology seriously. A well-maintained 2008 Yamaha F-150 may outlast a 2022 model and cost half as much to own. The data supports this. Don't let marketing override mathematics. Fourth, support independent repair shops. They're not just businesses. They're the front line in a fight for your right to fix what you own. Every dollar spent at an independent shop is a vote for a different kind of industry. This brings us to a direct message for the manufacturers. Mercury, Yamaha, Suzuki, Honda. The data is public now. Your customers are paying more, waiting longer, and trusting you less. The repair records don't lie. The cost comparisons don't lie. The repairability indexes don't lie. The question isn't whether you can build more complex engines. You've proven that you can. The question is whether you should, whether the features justify the failures, whether the margins justify the frustration, whether short-term revenue is worth long-term reputation, because reputation, once lost, doesn't come back easily. And the whispers are getting louder. We began this investigation with a simple comparison: old versus new, mechanical versus digital. What we found was bigger than engine specifications. We found a story about progress and its costs, about innovation and its unintended consequences, about an industry that promised reliability and delivered dependency. The old mechanics understood something that modern engineers forgot. Simplicity isn't primitive. It's a choice, a design philosophy that respects the owner, the environment, the boat, and the water. An engine that can be fixed is an engine that lasts. An engine that lasts is an engine that serves. That 1996 Johnson, from the beginning of this story, is still running, still on the water, still asking nothing but spark plugs and oil changes. The 2021 engine that started this investigation, last we heard, it sold at a loss. The owner replaced it with a 2009 Yamaha. Some lessons the industry taught us wrong. Some lessons we had to learn for ourselves. And some engines were built to last by people who understood what that word actually means.